Hey everyone, I'm Xingfeng, and today I'm gonna share my presentation about brain drain of health practitioners in the country Angola. Brain drain is definitely a worldwide problem, especially for these developing countries and low-income countries, because many of their talents decide to go to developed countries such as countries in Europe, United States, Canada, and Australia to work and live there. The reason why I choose Angola as the representative is because first, I want the presentation to be more context specific. Second, from the background of this slide, we can see that Angola is one of the countries in Central Africa where they have a sense of urgency more than any other continent to reverse the situation in order to keep their health workers for the development of its health system. The brain drain specifically refers to the migration of health professionals from low-income countries to developed countries. Of course, this phenomenon is not only limited to well-trained health workers, but also includes those individuals who haven't received any professional training, but are willing to work in the health system, and they tend to directly go to other countries. They're going to study related majors, obtain diplomas, and eventually get employed over there. There are many regions attracting individuals, a high standard of living, a high salary, advanced technology, a stable political environment, a safer community, a respectable career, an easier promotion in the workplace, and etc., which all make this a wicked problem. So, next, we're going to discuss Angola's current situation in detail. Since Angola's government has never officially published data in terms of bridging, and there is no local researchers studied in this topic, I only find some useful data from other peer-reviewed articles. The bar chart on the left shows top 10 African countries sending their physicians to developed countries in year 2000. Among them, the country Angola ranks third. 70% of its physicians in this country work overseas at that time. On the right, we have data also from 2000. It is estimated that 65,000 Africa-born doctors and 70,000 African-born nurses were working in other countries at that moment, which accounted for one-fifth and one-tenth of the total number of doctors and nurses who were born in Africa, respectively. This indicates that the brain drain is a severe problem for Africa, especially for the country Angola. The health status of Angola is that as of year 2020, the country has a population of 30 million, but there are only zero point 0.2 physicians and zero point 0.4 nurses per thousand population. And I left another set of data here for us to have a comparison. There are 3.6 doctors for every 1,000 individuals in Australia, which is 18 times that of Angola. Although the proportion of doctors in the general population is small, studies also show that this number is declining. This is not only because of the bridging, but also because the population in Angola is rapidly increasing. On average, every woman in this country will give birth to more than 6 children, which makes Angola becomes a country with the highest growth rate in terms of population in the world. And the last set of data is that the government's annual expenditure on the health system accounts for only 2.7% of its annual GDP, while the world average reaches 9.8%. And remember, Australia has around 12% of its annual GDP invested in its health system, and the United States has invested more than 15%. This indicates that Angola still pays little attention to the development of its health system. Therefore, the government does not care much about the salary and working environment of its health practitioners, and I assume this would be one of the main reasons why talents choose to leave the country. For income, this topic is very interesting and controversial. First of all, we see that the average annual income in Angola is just above 6,000 US dollars, but Angola is actually considered to be a low income country, and the gap between the rich and the poor is extremely large. It is because the country mainly relies on the export of oil and diamonds to obtain fiscal revenue. Another data I find is that oil and diamond exports have accounted for 99.3% of Angola's total exports over the past decade. And honestly, this money is only concentrated in the hands of a very small number of individuals, which are probably oil companies' owners, bankers, and those rich families in Angola. They put the per capita salary much higher than the reality. And in fact, ordinary people cannot make much money over there. It is very common for individuals to make only $200 a year in Angola. Another set of data shows that the annual salary that health practitioners making in Angola is about 30,000 US dollars, which is far higher than the annual income of most Angolans. But this job only ranks in the 12th high income occupation, and it does not have much difference from the 13th, 14th, and even 15th high income occupations. The irony is that the highest paid profession in this country is fireguard. Its income is more than 200,000 US dollars a year, which is 7 times higher than that of doctors. After I discovered this, I deliberately put this here for comparison. So what I want to see is that if anyone can hold a gun and he's make a lot of money, why do individuals care to hold a scalpel and spend decades studying medical knowledge and only make few money? I have to make assumption that the health worker is not a well-paid and respected profession in the country. And maybe people show more respect to a bodyguard because they make much more money and they can make sure that they can feed their family. This table comes from another peer-reviewed article comparing the income for global health practitioners in different countries. What attracts me is that we can find the income for health workers in low-income countries is actually many times higher than that of locals, while the income for health workers in those high-income countries does not have a big difference with other local professions. This indicates that income is not the only factor considered by talents who leave their country. I assume that those people they pursue more things, such as professional respect, political stability, spiritual freedom, and equality in terms of income, gender, race, and etc. And I will discuss more about this in the next couple of slides. Angola just ended its civil war in 2002. The war has severely damaged the national health system and the health infrastructure, and the first president was just elected in 2017. And it's been criticized as one of the most corrupt countries because the election is likely to be controlled by some rich families. Health professionals are highly educated talents. I don't believe they can tolerate such corruption. They are likely to choose to work in other countries simply because of political instability and the corruption. Angola is not a country considered safe either, especially gun robberies against foreigners often occur. In the country, there are still armed groups that protect oil and diamond mining areas, but they are not actually controlled by the government. Protests often escalate into violent incidents. In 2015, 9.6 people per 100,000 population were murdered, but whether the government introduced laws or national action plans to prevent violence from happening is unknown. Therefore, the safety of the community is also a factor that health workers consider for themselves and their families. A safer social environment will prompt them to go to. Reports also show that after graduating from Angola, many medical students choose management positions instead of directly providing health services. The reason behind that has not been explained, but I assume the number of medical workers compared with the total population in the country is too small, resulting in extremely heavy workload. So graduates tend to work at management positions rather than to directly face patients. The distribution of health practitioners is also extremely uneven. Individuals are unwilling to stay in the countryside. As a result, 85% of health practitioners in this country are located in the cities. The capital alone has 42% of country's health practitioners, and it only has 24% of the total population of the country. What else shocked me is that many medical institutions do not hold regular tenders because they have not formulated detailed plans. There are multiple reasons for the brain drain taking place in Angola. The combined influence of each factor makes this problem more complicated and challenging. Through a lot of reading, I have summarized the following six reasons for health practitioners to leave Angola for other countries. The country does not pay enough attention to the development of its health system, and health practitioners are not taken seriously either. Although this occupation is considered a high paying job compared to local ordinary people, it is still not considered a high paying industry in this country and has not received the respect and reward it deserves. The health infrastructure was destroyed by the Civil War, and the government's investment on the health system only accounts for 2% of its annual GDP, which has made many health workers lose patience and confidence. In addition, the political environment is unstable. Corruption often occurs. As the mainstay of the middle class, health practitioners apparently cannot tolerate this. The community is not safe either. Guns are not banned in this country, and there are armed groups in many areas. The distribution of health practitioners within the country is also uneven, and the absence of incentive policies has led to most individuals not willing to work in the countryside. Overall, better living conditions, safer communities, more respected working environments, and more stable political environments are the main factors leading health practitioners to leave Angola for other countries. Thank you for listening, and the next two slides are references.